Hi, I'm Jeff Richards. Welcome to Japan Today Spotlight. Japan just held a national election. It was one that delivered a clear win for Prime Minister Takaichi and the long-ruling Liberal Democratic Party, the LDP. But this episode isn't about that particular election. This one is about how Japan elects its leaders. Because Japan's system works quite differently from what many people might expect. Here's one quick piece of recent context that matters. Since the assassination of former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe in 2022, Japan has had 3 prime ministers, 2 general elections, and 1 party that's still in power. The leadership has changed, but the structure hasn't. That's not a bug, it's a feature of how the system is designed to work. Japanese voters don't elect their prime minister directly. Campaigns are short. Elections can be called suddenly, like the one that we just had. Power often shifts inside political parties rather than at the ballot box. In this edition of Japan Today Spotlight, we'll look at how national elections are triggered in Japan, how long campaigns last, who can vote and who can't, typical voter turnout, and why the LDP has managed to dominate Japanese politics for decades. How Japan actually chooses its prime minister. In Japan, as I said, voters don't elect the prime minister directly. They elect members of the national parliament, known as the Diet. The Diet has 2 chambers, an upper house with 248 members and a lower house with 465. It's the lower house that is the most powerful of the 2. When Japan holds a general election, it's voting for the lower house, the chamber that decides who becomes prime minister. Voting in national elections is open to Japanese citizens aged 18 and over. In lower house elections, voters cast 2 ballots. One vote is for a local district candidate. The other is for the political party. Those votes are counted separately. The district vote decides who represents that area. The party vote is used to allocate proportional representation seats. Together, those results will determine which party controls the lower house, and the leader of that party becomes prime minister. When Takaichi first became prime minister last October, she did not have a clear majority. She relied on support from the Japan Innovation Party to secure enough seats in the Diet. That produced a minority government. At the time, the next general election wasn't due until 2028. But Japan's constitution gives the prime minister the power to dissolve the lower house and call a snap election. And that's exactly what Takaichi did on January 23rd. The aim was to win a clear majority and remove the risk of parliamentary gridlock. It worked. The LDP won 316 seats in the lower house. The whole procedure took just 16 days. That gave Takaichi enough support to govern without relying on any coalition partner. That ability to reset the political landscape quickly is a defining feature of Japan's election system. When Japan calls a general election, the campaign itself is tightly regulated. Those rules shape how politics is presented to the voters. Campaigning starts fast. On the very first day, the leaders of the main parties take part in a televised event that's often described as a debate. In reality, it isn't. Each leader speaks in turn. There are no interruptions, no rebuttals, no direct challenges. And at the end, party leaders hold up placards with short slogans that sum up their platforms. Then they shake hands. Sometimes they even link arms. That's the tone. If you've been in Japan during an election campaign, you will certainly be familiar with what happens next. Once campaigning gets underway, party leaders fan out across major cities. Tokyo, Kyoto, Osaka, Yokohama, other urban centers. They appear outside busy train stations, standing on platforms or atop campaign vehicles, delivering short speeches to passers-by. Security at these events was heightened after former Prime Minister Shinzo Abe was assassinated in 2022 while campaigning for a fellow party candidate outside a train station in Nara. Since then, police keep candidates further away from crowds and they restrict access around speaking areas. At the local level, campaigning looks very different. Candidates drive slowly through their districts in small vans. Their name and photo are plastered on the sides. They lean out the window waving, often wearing white gloves, and loudspeakers repeat the candidate's name over and over. No policies, just the name. By law, this kind of campaigning has to stop at 8 p.m. And the idea is simple. If voters hear a name often enough, they'll remember it when they go to vote. Posters reinforce that message. Each district has official boards and they're lined with headshots of every candidate. In this most recent election, winter weather made this kind of campaigning harder in parts of northern Japan. Heavy snow covered posters, roads were blocked, outdoor rallies were sparsely attended, but campaigning went on anyway. Why the LDP almost never loses? Well, the LDP has dominated this alphabet soup of Japanese politics for decades. The party was formed in 1955. Since then, it has only been out of power twice. During the Cold War, the LDP was backed by the CIA. For years, the CIA spent millions of dollars supporting the party in the fight against socialist and communist rivals. That support stayed secret until the mid-1990s. It only became public after reporting by the New York Times based on declassified US documents. By then, though, the political impact was limited. The LDP was already deeply entrenched into Japan's political system. The party lost power briefly from 1994 to 1996 and again from 2009 to 2012. First, to a short-lived coalition in the mid-1990s, and then later to the Democratic Party of Japan. Another reason the LDP endures is its internal structure. It's a party that's built around factions. When leadership contests are held, those factions put forward their own candidates. Sometimes, members break away and form new parties ahead of an election. They often choose familiar words like people or democracy for the party name. The pattern is usually the same. After the election, the breakaway party then fades away and its members return to the fold. One notable exception is Tokyo Governor Yuriko Koike. She left the LDP and formed her own party in 2012. That effort didn't last. Instead of returning to the LDP, she ran for Tokyo governor in 2016 and has held that position ever since. At its core, the LDP survives because of its base. Older voters, agricultural interests, and major business groups are its bedrock of support. This base really matters. It matters even more in a system where many voters don't even turn out at all. In Japan, voter turnout in general elections is often modest, usually in the 54 to 56% range. It's typically lower among younger voters. That means the people who vote consistently carry more weight. Older voters and organized groups show up. Others don't. So, yes, fewer people vote here. And the voters who always show up end up deciding more. That helps explain why one party has stayed in power for a long time. While traditional campaigning still dominates, social media, of course, now plays a growing role in Japanese elections. That's especially true for younger voters. Japan lowered the voting age from 20 to 18 in 2016. That brought millions of first-time voters into the system. For political parties, social media is one of the few ways to reach those people directly. Prime Minister Sanai Takaichi has around 2.6 million followers on X, where she mixes political messaging with more personal posts. Opposition parties rely even more heavily on online platforms. One example is Sanseto, which was founded in 2020 through online recruitment and YouTube outreach. Sanseto's YouTube channel has around 570,000 subscribers. In the most recent lower house election, the party increased its presence from 2 seats to 15. But even for parties built online, this reach has limits. Sanseto leader Sohei Kamiya said during the campaign that while rally crowds were growing, online reach was falling. He said posts were spreading far less than before and that visibility on X had dropped to around a third of previous levels. Another example is the Centrist Reform Alliance. It launched just days before the lower house was dissolved and quickly built an online presence. Its YouTube channel attracted around 110,000 subscribers, but that visibility didn't translate into votes. The party performed poorly in the election, reinforcing the gap between online attention and electoral success. Japan's election system still favors parties that can field candidates nationwide and win single-seat districts. Smaller parties often struggle to do that, no matter how visible they are online. Takuma Ohamazaki, CEO of election consultancy JAG Japan Corporation, says social media's role in politics is only going to increase. He puts it this way: core supporters may not care much about social media, but for undecided voters, it is the most effective tool and maybe the only tool that is truly appealing to them. As social media becomes more central to elections, it brings new risks. During the recent election campaign, concerns about deepfakes and misinformation grew enough to prompt public education efforts. In Tokyo, a workshop was held for junior high and high school students to improve media literacy and fact-checking skills. The focus here wasn't politics, it was awareness. In one session, the students were shown an AI-generated image of a candidate giving a speech outside Shinjuku Station. At first, many didn't notice anything was wrong. Only after closer inspection did they spot problems, including misspelled English text and fake banners in the background. Narumichi Oyama, a manager at LY, the company that operates the Line messaging app, says many students understand the risk. But he added this: most students know that they need to be careful not to be misled, but relatively few of them, particularly those in their teens, pursue the truth and verify information on their own. Soon, they'll become voters and are expected to contribute to society. Japan's election system has long relied on strict rules and controlled messaging. Digital media is now testing the limits of that model. As campaigns move further online, the challenge isn't just information. It's whether voters have the tools and habits needed to question what they see. Japan's elections don't look very dramatic. Campaigns are short, debates are restrained, voters don't choose the prime minister directly. This system is built for continuity. Power shifts slowly. Leadership often changes within parties. And that helps explain why Japanese politics looks stable to outside onlookers, even when it's under pressure. From Tokyo, this is Japan Today Spotlight. I'm Jeff Richards. See you next time.